encourages politicians to promise things that they know they'll be able to give away in the coalition talks. So it makes election manifestos a complete gamble. The 41%, I got 41% of the vote, I got more votes than everybody else. That seems to me absolutely fine way to win an election, and I don't think people's second choice is as strong a choice as their first choice. So I think to say other people might have chosen something secondarily is not a very strong argument. And the gentleman in the check shirt makes a very good point, because both of us can find individual examples where our systems seem not to work. So I'll go back to Australia in 1972, two candidates in the end. One got 45.8% of the vote, the other got 16.5% of the vote. Slightly different system from ours, you had to use all your preferences, you couldn't just stop. One with 16.5% of the vote won. So do you really think that is more democratic than somebody with 45.8% of the vote winning? I don't think the umpteenth preference is worth a row of beans. And therefore, I think the first past the post system gives more people more of what they want. I accept that every system is some form of a compromise on pure democracy. But we know that because otherwise we would have referendums every day rather than delegating it to Parliament. So any system is a compromise. It's a question of one that works, is effective, produces good government, or at least strong government, and is as fair as it reasonably can be. And that is first past the post.
Thank you, Jacob. Megan, would you like to respond to the criticism that it produces weak governments?
Well, I think that it actually isn't so much the systems that are producing weak governments, it's people's preferences. It's the fact that we don't just have two parties. It's the fact that people are increasingly voting for third and fourth and so on parties. So if you actually look, for example, at Australia, which does have a system quite like AV, it's had a coalition for the first time in 38 elections. Whereas if you look at the UK, in the past 100 years, it's had 7 cases of hung parliament and 4 cases of having a majority that was actually too small to govern effectively. So I think that saying first past the post leads to strong government, particularly when you look at places like India and Canada, which are the 2 major other countries with first past the post and have had coalitions pretty much for all their recent history. First past the post doesn't mean strong government. The alternative vote doesn't mean weak government.
Okay, thank you, Megan. I'm going to open up for more questions. John, you will get a say. Because obviously we have time constraint, I want to open up to more questions, so I'll go for this man here.
Don Collier, yes, I sympathise that the AV system is simple to write 1, 2, 3, but complicated when it comes to counting. And I've read that little booklet, and I listened to Susan's description. It is more complicated, but I think you haven't quite understood it, you see, because you think it's unfair. And I think if you listen to the facts, you'll realise it is fair. And the same goes for Jacob, because he's talking about number of bites at a cherry or something. If you think of the first, because it comes in rounds of voting, as that booklet explains, the first round, everyone, it's their first choice that counts. Okay? So your example of 3 candidates with the independent, the reason he didn't get in, because first choices are more important than the other ones. Okay? So he didn't get enough first choices, so that's why he wasn't elected. But so the small parties don't have extra voting papers, or ballot papers, so they all have 1 vote for that first round of voting.
Sum up your points.
Yeah. Okay. So when the smallest candidate is eliminated and votes are redistributed, the next round, the same number of ballot papers, everybody gets 1 say. They don't get extra votes. There's no added papers. And if you think of the people voting with their first choices on the second round will be voting for the second time. Okay, so they've had 2 bites of the cherry, whereas people on their second choice is their first bite of the cherry. So it is fair.
I think we've understood the point. Thank you very much. I'll take the man with his hand up in the middle like that.
Don said it's not fair that votes from minority parties get their preferences taken into account. Is he saying that people who are disillusioned with the major parties should have no say in how our government is formed and who represents us?
Okay, thank you for that question. I'll take one more question. Okay,
Just quickly, in regard to something that Jacob Rees-Mogg said, you're giving examples of where AV works, but bad things happen. So the people within the parliament in Australia say bad things to each other. That isn't because of AV. That's like someone in North Korea saying, well, we have democracy in Britain and they fiddle their expenses, so we shouldn't have democracy because it's bad. That's just positive. And just to clarify the point that this gentleman was making, it's not about people getting second votes. Your choices as listed, that is your vote. It is a nuanced vote that expresses how you feel about politics. My political vote isn't simple. It isn't just about Labour, it's also about local issues. And that is a way of me expressing my full vote and being taken into account.
thank you. John, would you like to respond to this one?
So, do you work here? You don't? Do you work in politics at all? No? Okay. So you don't teach? No? You accept that I read? And that I can read? Yeah? Yeah? You accept that despite the fact that I'm a dyslexic, I've actually managed to read?
Come on.
Okay, good. Because I understand the system very well indeed. Okay? I understand it extremely well indeed. And I disagree entirely with your point. Completely. Okay? The thing is, if you read in here, it says, because voters don't have to rank all of the candidates, an election can be won under the alternative vote system with less than half the total votes cast. Okay? So the second votes and the third votes under AV do matter. They do matter. And how you put them matters. So when you tell people that because you find it difficult, you don't need to do it, or because you're not interested, you don't need to do it, what you're actually doing is disenfranchising people. Okay? You're actually telling people that their second votes and third votes don't matter, you don't have to worry about it. And it doesn't get to 50% of the vote, and that 50% of the vote, which has been repeated a number of times by the Yes campaign, and is continually repeated by the Yes campaign, is wrong. Because if somebody doesn't use those preferences, their votes get discarded. They don't count anymore. So their vote counts less than somebody who does. So you can see by your face, you know that I do understand it. Okay? And the question that we've got at the back here is, am I actually saying that under the current first past the post system, that people who vote for minority parties don't matter, or people who don't like the majority party don't matter? No, I don't. I'm not saying that at all. It's a completely different tactic. When you're voting under first past the post, if you really don't want somebody to win, and that's what burns your vote the most, you vote for the person who you actually think has got the best chance of beating them. Okay? And that's how you deal with it. That's what tactical voting is, and if that's what floats your vote, that's fine. If what you actually want to do is show support for somebody, and you want to say, well, this person actually might not win this time, but if we all get together and show that he's got growing support, in a couple of elections' time, he'll get there. And that's how first past the post works. AV's tactical voting is in how you use the second, third, fourth, 22nd, 118th preference. And that's what matters.
But if everybody's doing it,
Thank you, John. I'm not going to allow that. John, would you want to come back to a point made by the other John, just that our votes count less? Some particular people votes count less than others. How to respond?
I don't really want to respond other than to say that if you don't bother going into the ballot box, your vote doesn't count. If you go into the ballot box and you spoil your ballot paper, your vote doesn't count. And if we have an AV system and you choose to put down just number 1 and 2 and not bother with 3 and 4, well then at least 1 and 2 will count.